You've probably heard of the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. It sounds clean, it sounds simple, and every personal finance guru on the internet swears by it. But here's the truth. The 50-30-20 rule is a lie. Not because the math is wrong, but because it was never designed for the world we actually live in. Today I'll show you why this popular rule keeps people stuck, and what to do instead if you actually want to build wealth. The 50-30-20 rule was popularized back in 2005. The idea was to give average families a simple framework for budgeting, and for its time, it wasn't terrible. Housing was cheaper, healthcare was cheaper, college was cheaper, and wages went further. But here's the problem. We don't live in 2005 anymore. Costs have exploded while wages have barely moved. Trying to fit today's expenses into a formula from 20 years ago is like wearing shoes from when you were 10. It doesn't fit, and it hurts. Let's start with the biggest lie, that you can cover all your needs with 50% of your income. In most major cities, rent alone eats up 40% or more. Add groceries, utilities, insurance, transportation, and minimum debt payments, and you're already way past 50. For millions of people, needs cost 70 or 80% of their income. So the rule fails before it even starts. It doesn't account for reality, and it makes people feel like failures for not hitting a number that was never realistic. Now here's the second problem. 30% for wants is an enormous slice of your paycheck, especially when you're trying to get ahead. Dining out, entertainment, vacations, gadgets, shopping. 30% adds up fast. The wealthy don't spend 30% of their income on fun. They spend as little as possible on wants early in life so they can invest the difference. Giving yourself permission to blow nearly a third of your income on non-essentials is the opposite of what builds wealth. And then there's the savings part. 20% sounds reasonable until you realize it takes forever to build real wealth at that rate. If you're starting from zero with no investments, saving 20% of an average salary won't get you financial freedom for decades. The wealthy save and invest 30, 40, even 50% of their income, especially in their early years. 20% is maintenance mode. It's enough to not be broke, but not enough to actually get rich. Here's another fatal flaw. The rule doesn't mention debt. Not once. If you're carrying student loans, car payments, or credit card debt, where does that fit? Into needs? Into savings? Into wants? The rule gives you no guidance, and for most people, debt is the single biggest obstacle to financial progress. Any budget framework that pretends debt doesn't exist is already broken. You can't plan your financial life around a model that ignores the biggest line item on your balance sheet. The deeper problem is that the 50-30-20 rule treats everyone the same. A college student making minimum wage gets the same advice as a software engineer making six figures. A single parent in an expensive city gets the same percentages as a couple with no kids in a cheap town. That's absurd. Your budget should be as unique as your life. A rigid formula can't account for your rent, your debt, your goals, your income, your age, or your risk tolerance. It's a one-size-fits-nobody approach disguised as wisdom. So what do the wealthy do instead? They follow a simple priority system. First, they pay themselves. Before any bill, before any want, they move money into investments. It's not 20%, it's as much as they can. Second, they minimize fixed costs ruthlessly. Smaller apartments, used cars, cheaper phones. Third, they spend on wants only after investing and covering needs. The order matters. The wealthy don't budget by category. They budget by priority. Invest first, survive second, enjoy last. Here's the method that actually works. The moment your paycheck lands, you automatically transfer a fixed amount to an investment account. Not savings, investments. The market, index funds, assets that grow. Then you pay your bills with what's left. Then you spend on wants with whatever is left after that. This flips the 50-30-20 rule on its head. Instead of saving what's left over, you spend what's left over. The money you invest never touches your checking account, so you never miss it. Forget percentages for a moment. Start with your actual income and your actual expenses. Write down every single fixed cost: rent, food, transport, debt, insurance. That's your survival number. Now subtract that from your income. Whatever is left is your opportunity zone, the money that will determine your financial future. Your goal is to push as much of that opportunity zone into investments as you can handle. Not 20%, as much as possible. This is what I call the squeeze strategy. Every month, you try to squeeze your needs a little lower and your investments a little higher. You negotiate your rent. You switch to a cheaper phone plan. You cook more. You cancel what you don't use. And every dollar you free up gets redirected into investments. It's not glamorous, but over time, those small squeezes create massive gaps between you and everyone still following the 50-30-20 rule. Wealth isn't built in big jumps. It's built in small daily squeezes. The 50-30-20 rule teaches you to allocate. The pay yourself first method teaches you to prioritize. And that mindset difference is everything. When you allocate, you spread your money thin across categories and hope it works. When you prioritize, you protect your future first and adjust everything else around it. The wealthy don't hope their budget works out. They design their spending so that wealth is the default outcome, not the leftovers. So stop following a formula that was outdated before most of you were born. Look at your real numbers, set your real priorities, and pay yourself first, every single month. The 50-30-20 rule makes you feel organized while keeping you average. The pay yourself first method makes you uncomfortable for a while, and then makes you wealthy. That's the trade. I'm the money guy. I'll see you in the next